On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks are coming off a weekend where they lose to the Wizards. Hopefully, they'll get a win against the Cavs tonight.
And on today's show, I have 5 questions for Nick Angstead and why the Book of Boba Fett will suck.
I got 5 on it. On today's Locked On Mavs.
Kalunchich, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstead, media member and manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Check out prizepicks.com and use the promo code NBA or go to your app store and download the app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can see us right now. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor, writer at Mavs.com. The Monday Maniac, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
All right, we're coming off a rough weekend. That Wizards game, the more I've thought about it, I talked about it again to some people on Sunday. Dang it, they should have won that game.
That's what we said after the game.
I know. I couldn't remember if you remembered it after your Modelo's, and I was just.
I remembered everything very clearly. Shout out to Matthew.
But, man, they should have won the game. But you know what? We're going to turn the page. They have Cleveland tonight and at home. Evan Mobley will both be at this game. I'm assuming you'll be at this game.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see Mobley up close and personal.
Yeah.
Seeing a Ricky Rubio potential Mavs trade target later on the season up close. Mm-hmm. But it's a time for them to get back on track. They got to beat the Cavs tonight and have a good win at home.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is massive for the Mavericks to bounce back from losses like that, where you had 3 days off. The Wizards were coming off of back-to-back. You had it at the end there. How do you adjust? How do you fix things? If it comes down to a clutch game again, how do the Mavericks win in the clutch? If Jalen Brunson is missing again, how do the Mavericks play in the second half without Jalen Brunson? They played pretty well in the first half without Luka and without Brunson on the court. But how do they do in the second half? I think that's a key, because after the Wizards game, we broke it all down in our weekend show. So if you want to go listen to more of that, go check out that on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. By the way, also, we're going to be doing our 5-star iTunes, Apple Podcast review questions again. We got one at the end of the show. So if you want to stick around and listen to that, and also get your question in, put in a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and we will answer every single question. So we got one coming up later in the show.
Yeah, so today I have 5 questions for Nick. It's a game day for, obviously they play the Cavs tonight, like we said, but I have 5 questions for Nick, kind of on the Mavs as a whole. Maybe some trade stuff in a few months, but we did a trade pod on Black Friday on Friday. If some of you guys are back in your routine, you're back at work, you're driving to work on a Monday, and you're like, hey, did you guys drop a pod during the whole Thanksgiving festivities outside the post game pod? Oh, we did.
Do you even know us at all?
Do you know us? On Black Friday, we dropped hey, if the Mavericks went window shopping across the league, calling teams, who could they be calling? Some players, some deals they'd be interested in. But okay, question number 1 for you today. Will it matter who scores the most points this season between Jalen Brunson and Tim Hardaway Jr.? So right now, Tim Hardaway Jr. is at 14.4 points per game. Jalen Brunson at 15.1. Factor in everything to this question.
Are you saying total points or just average?
Just points per game.
Yeah.
Does it matter? And factor in everything. Factor in their careers, factoring the roles on the team, factor in Jalen Brunson contract stuff coming up, unrestricted free agency over the offseason, factor in the roster construction, the Mavericks organization of hey, who they value, should it matter is it an either or? Does it anything? Does it matter? You can just say no, it doesn't matter, or we could dive deeper into it.
I really wanted to say yes, because I really wanted to say yes, because if Brunson is scoring more than Hardaway, and Hardaway, that's what he does, right? That is what the Mavericks have brought him in to do. He's not really playing defense that well right now for the Mavericks, and he's not really a playmaker. He doesn't really get other people involved. He's a he'll pass in the system and all that, and swing passes and all that, but that's what he's doing. He's coming in to hit open shots, to hit shots, and if he's scoring less points than Jalen Brunson, then there would be a problem. I wanted to say that. However, I think the way this team is constructed, I think Brunson and Hardaway will just be stuck in this. We're the third and fourth highest scorers on the team, and it doesn't really matter between the two of us who has more. And one night Brunson will have 20 and Hardaway will have 10, and then the other night they'll just switch, and it shouldn't matter as long as those top two guys in Luka obviously and Porzingis pull their weight. If they pull their weight, then those two other guys can just follow suit, and then all of a sudden everything's fine. So I don't think it does matter.
Okay. I think that's where I land, but I started thinking about it from a bunch of different angles of, okay, what if JB does finish the season? Let's say he finishes like 18 points per game and Tim stays at like 14. Does that factor into any decision-making going into the offseason of, okay, JB's our clear number 3. JB needs to be paid like 10, that like something like that. And then it's an either or type thing. Does whatever JB does this season, as far as like scoring wise, role wise, everything, if he keeps this up, does he potentially make Tim Hardaway expendable? I don't know. That's why I'm just throwing these questions out there. People in the comments, I'm sure on YouTube, are saying, hey, no, this doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. We need scores. We need all of this. I just wonder, because it's been a clear Tim Hardaway Jr. is that like third scorer type. Now Tim is getting paid what, $18-19 million a year, decreasing all of that. But still, I do wonder if that factors in anything, if a guy, drops the 4th on that, that scoring list with the Mavs.
It's an interesting thought, because last year, if you look at it, 16.6 points a game for Hardaway, 12.5 for Brunson. And then now that gap has really, Brunson has now surpassed him in just straight scoring average, but Tim Hardaway's taking a little step down. Brunson's taking a pretty big step up. Yeah, if Brunson passes him, doesn't matter. What does it mean for Tim Hardaway? Does that mean that contract is all of a sudden looking bad again, right? I mean, we would have gone full circle with Tim Hardaway, where he was the tax for the Porzingis trade, and then all of a sudden he was good, and you're like, okay, maybe Hardaway was the best player in that trade, and then they re-sign him for about the same deal, and then now maybe it becomes overpay again, right? Do we go in that whole cycle again? I hope not. I hope it doesn't end up in that situation, but if he keeps going in this direction, then maybe it is.
And go the opposite direction. Maybe what if Tim goes on a huge tear of the next month? Let's say he finishes 18-19 a game, and JB kind of goes back down to like 13, 14, something like that. Does that factor into anything as far as how much they want to pay JB this coming off season, or their roles moving forward, or anything like that? I just wonder if there's any type of relationship between those numbers. And if not, then no biggie. I think I lean towards no, there is no relation, but it's just something when looking at the numbers, I'm like, they're kind of close, and they haven't been close because JB's kind of taken that next step.
Those two guys, as far as role players for the Mavericks, are super important, because we've been saying for, years now, at this point, the biggest problem with the Mavericks is they need that second player. They need that second best player. And Porzingis has now stepped into that role a little bit. And so now those third and fourth players really have to show up. They really do, to be able to make all of this work. And so those two guys have become so important for the Mavericks. Coming up, let's get into some more questions. The Mavericks have been an interesting team so far this season. What's going on with Jason Kidd, Luka Doncic? We'll talk about that and answer some more questions. But before we do, let me tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily NBA fantasy done right. It's the best NBA daily fantasy prop game on the market. They offer more NBA props than any other daily fantasy prop operator, and they offer superstar players as well as bench players, only recording a handful of minutes each game. So they offer the Luka Doncic's, the Brunsons, the Tim Hardaway Jr.'s, all that. Prize Picks offers any prop that you can imagine, from yards to touchdowns, even interceptions. You can do basketball, you can do football, MMA, all kinds of things on Prize Picks. All of the users that deposit and use the promo code NBA, you will get 100% instant deposit match up to $100. And how Prize Picks works, you can pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections. So you can win up to 10 times on any entry. So if you want Luka Doncic and it says 25.5 points, and you're like, Luka's going to go off tonight. Pick the over. If you think going up against Evan Mobley, 15 points, you say, no, Mobley's coming back from injury. I'm not feeling under for that. All of a sudden, you can get odds on that. So go check it out. Prizepicks.com, promo code NBA. Also want to tell you about directtv.com. It's one of the few ways that I have found to watch the Dallas Mavericks. I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And this is a way I have found to not pay for the full cable, but to still get your Mavs. It's called DirecTV Stream. It brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, shows, and the Mavericks all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes, no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there is no annual contract for you. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion. Get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device is required. Check that before you do that. Content varies by package. All right, Isaac Harris, hit me with another question.
All right, we're going to look at Luka Doncic's stat line. Which one of these categories, I'm just lumping this into one question, but which one of these categories does Luka Doncic not hit this season? I want to compare it to last year. 2020-2021 season. Luka averaged 27 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds. He shot 35% from 3 and 48% from the field. This season, he's basically under all of those numbers. 25 points a game. He's right at it, 8 and 8 as far as assists and rebounds. But he's at 31% from 3 compared to 35. And he's at 44% from the field compared to 48%. Which one of these numbers, if any, does he not hit from last season?
Oof, the way the Mavericks have been shooting the three, that assist number just it seems like it'll never go up, right? Like if the Mavericks keep missing open shots the way that they do now, he's only down a half of assists. So if the Mavericks all of a sudden go on a run here, that can go up. But yeah, I think that the rest of like those shooting splits. Now we're talking about there's a lot that he has to do to get to boost some of those up now because he's played 15 games. I guess he's got a bunch more he could still pull those up, but the shots that he's taking from 3, it's hard for him to go on a run where he's shooting 40-50% for a long time and get him all back up to that 35% number he was at that last year. So I think that assist number is the first one that stands out, but then I think the 3-point percentage is one that'll be hard for him to boost all the way back to where it was last year.
I think that's where I'm with you on it. Like the 25 compared to 27 points per game last year, I think he gets to that 27 mark. The assists and rebounds, I'm not worried about. I actually do think like Reggie Bullocks of the world, I think their shots are going to start falling. Maxi's going to play more.
Whew, I hope so.
Maxi's shooting what? I think 41% from 3 this season so far. So like, I think the assist number, I think actually he could finish the season around the 8.5, 9 mark on assists. It's the 3-point percentage, like you said. It's, the highest he shot in his career so far is 35% in his career of the 4 years that he's been playing. And that's his sophomore season in the league, he shot 9 threes a game. He's averaging 8, last year 8 this season. So
and his 3-point percentage is so strange because he takes the hardest shots. I mean, maybe the hardest 3-point shots in the NBA. Like I was sitting there and I was in, I don't know what row, like N last night. I was decently close to the court, and in the second half, you just see
flex on us, okay.
pretty up close where Luka is shooting threes from, and you just see the difficulty. My brother-in-law was there with me, and he plays basketball, and he just goes, man, like you just realize the difference between somebody like me and an NBA player when you see the type of threes, the length of the threes, that like the distance, the speed, the way that Luka just crosses over and then steps back on somebody like Daniel Gafford, who's just incredibly long, and he has no space at all to get that shot off. So Luka takes these insane shots. A lot of them are late in the shot clock too. So he takes these tough step backs, and he does force a lot of these too. He's sort of frustration shots or heat checks or whatever. But yeah, the types of shots that he takes, it's hard for him to have a really good percentage because it's not efficient, right? Like it's not efficient shots, but when they go in, it's Luka magic. It's incredible. We still sort of expect some of these clutch shots to go in, but his 3-point percentage is more interesting than like a Dorian Finney-Smith or Reggie Bullock. Those guys are just taking open threes, spot up threes. And so I don't know if we can look at his percentage. Luka is the same way we look at a Bullock. He's not getting a 40% ever in his career, maybe, right? Like, and Harden doesn't do that, right? Only guys that ever get there are Curry and Durant, and those guys, they take really efficient shots, and they're just good at literally every shot on the floor.
Especially as long as he's playing as the the only primary playmaker. If
Right.
there is ever a scenario down the road in which he has another guy next to him where he's playing off the ball more, maybe we'll see that percentage go up possibly. But okay, let's talk about roster construction.
Oh no.
The trade deadline come up in February. At the end of February, will Porzingis, Jalen Brunson, and Tim Hardaway Jr. all three be on the team?
End of the trade deadline. So this is Nico Harrison's first run through a season. We have now seen him do an entire offseason, basically. We've seen him run through that. He made a trade quickly. He traded Josh Richardson, and he didn't really make any other moves besides that. He signed some guys, re-signed some guys, but didn't make any other trades other than that. We were hoping for maybe a big, roster changing move this offseason. Didn't happen. Trade deadline. We're going to learn a lot about Nico Harrison and what he wants to do. How aggressive is he going to be? How does this team feel? How does Mark Cuban feel about this team? I know everybody's sick of them saying, well, we were right there against the Clippers and we don't have to change much about this team. And we're keeping Porzingis and continuity and, keep the powder dry and all those words, all those buzzwords I feel like that Mavs fans are sick of. Do they make a big deal? If Porzingis plays the way that he's playing right now, it'd be hard for me to see them not either one, talk themselves into keeping him and be like, our team is the best when Porzingis is playing this way, or just take advantage of the value that Porzingis had recouped at that point and try and change something up. It really depends on what this new regime, I guess if you want to call it a new regime, Mark Cuban's still at the helm, but what this new regime thinks about the whole Porzingis experiment at this point.
Yeah. So, and it's not even more. Yeah, I lumped all three of those guys together because those are the next, three next guys on the roster: KP, Brunson, and Tim Hardaway. And it's like, will they move past the deadline and all three of those guys be on the team? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say one of those guys will be gone. And just because I do think, if they stay, like I hear the other side, and I'm not even saying like, I'm not saying what I would do. I'm just saying what I think would happen. Is I think there's a scenario in which you're telling yourself, hey, the West is wide open, except for the Warriors. They're killing right now. But it's like the West is open. Continuity. Let's keep the squad together. Chemistry looks great. Let's just keep on rolling. But then there's a whole nother conversation of the West is wide open and let's swing for something. And it's the new GM, new coach. Like, let's really shake this, this rotation up. And that's where all three of those guys, I think, could be in play. It's like the KP conversation we've talked about a million times. If he keeps on playing well, is he the fit that you want? All this stuff. The Brunson conversation, because he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. You might lose him for nothing in the offseason, but whatever team trades for him too could lose him too. And then, is it a bigger package where it's multiple of these pieces? But then the Tim Hardaway situation too, or if you're looking at it and saying, all right, KP's working out great. We want to re-sign Brunson this offseason. Is Tim Hardaway the contract that we look at and say, all right, that's where I just think if they're going to shake up something, it has to involve one of those three, if not two of those three. And I think they do before the deadline. I think they do make some type of bigger move.
Let's hope so. That'd be interesting for this team because we have not seen them make.
Are you saying hope so for the team or for the podcast numbers?
Both. Both for everyone's sanity, something new, something fresh. This team does feel like it needs. I mean, the Mavericks are boring, right?
Whoa, who said that? Who said that?
Who would say that? Who would absolutely say that? No, I don't think they are. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see them make a deal at this point because I think we can all agree like this team isn't winning a title. But if they make a move, if they make the right move, then this team you could talk yourself into it this year for sure.
But you also see why they wouldn't either, because the whole hey, let's give this roster a chance with Kidd. Let's see it. Hopefully we don't get the Clippers and all of that. Like I haven't listened to the full.
That's just the hope.
Well, I haven't listened to the full conversation with Haralabob and Bill Simmons, but that first 20 minutes they were talking about the Clippers stuff. And Bob's sitting there saying, he's like, yeah, the Clippers were the one team that we were running all the scenarios on how we could avoid them, that they literally were the worst matchup and they got them 2 years in a row. It's just to hear that from the front office, that's what they were talking about too. It wasn't just a fan thing. It was, and then he obviously said that he thinks the Clippers were doing that on the other side of we want Dallas running their scenarios and how they could get Dallas, in the playoffs. But But yeah. All right. Coming up after the break, let's talk about another one of these questions I have for Nick on something he's learned this season.
Oh, what have I learned? We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Built Bar. It's Cyber Monday. If you guys are listening to this on Monday, November 29th, Built.com is the place to aim your mouse, your trackpad, your tap of your finger, whatever. Get at least 20% off everything delicious and healthy. That's 20% off site-wide, and even bigger discounts on Built Boost, broth, and Built swag as well. Isaac, maybe we need to get some of that Built swag.
Give me a hat. I need a Built Bar hat.
A brand new Built flavor has launched just in time for Cyber Monday. Caramel Almond Delight. It delivers everything it promises. Caramelized chocolate, almonds, delightful. Double check. Be sure to get yours before they're gone. 150 calories, 17 grams of protein, tons of stuff on their site. Go to Built.com right now. Use the promo code LOCKED20 to get 20% off everything. LOCKED20 is the promo code right now. If you've been waiting, this is the time to go do it. Off everything. LOCKED20 is the promo code. Also, I'm going to tell you about betonline.ag. It's the fastest and easiest way to put down some money on sports. Go check it out right now. They have the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday. 6-point favorite at New Orleans against the Saints. That one will be an interesting game. The Cowboys coming off of a pretty disappointing loss here, and we'll see how the Dallas Cowboys respond. But if you want some action on that, or if you think the Dallas Cowboys stink, like my friend Matthew that was sitting next to me at the game, and he's kept calling them the Cowgirls and hates the Cowgirls. If you want to bet against them, go ahead. Take the +6, take the points, and use your money on BetOnline. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. Get a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Isaac Harris. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. We are free and available on all platforms. Make sure you check out your second listen, Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Josh Lloyd is killing it right now. Absolutely the GOAT at what he does.
Okay, pretty simple. Somebody walks up to you and says, "Hey, Nick."
Good morning, Isaac.
Good morning, Isaac. That would be a weird interaction for
That
somebody.
would be amazing. Oh my! If Jason Kidd ever says that to me in real life, I don't know. I may just die. I just keel over and die.
What if I get him to say "Good afternoon, Isaac"?
Good morning, Isaac.
Oh my gosh, that would be incredible.
How would
and then we'd have to complete the trio, right? Good evening, Isaac.
Good night, Isaac. See ya.
Good night, Isaac.
If someone asks you, one of our favorite things that one of my favorite things is when like that family member asks you like Thanksgiving or Christmas or something, like they just want to have the Mavs talk with you because they know you do Mavs stuff, and like,
Nick, that's a good question.
That tall guy, or man, Luca, he's good or something.
Yes.
If somebody asked you at a Thanksgiving dinner last week, said, "Hey Nick, what is one thing that you've learned about the Mavericks this season?"
I have to apologize that you felt that he should have played more.
That's what I learned.
You learned about Jason Kidd.
Something I've learned this year is that, man, the margins are thin. The margins are thin for some of these things. I mean, we look at the Mavericks and we look at some of these numbers. We look at their offensive rating. We're like, man, the Mavericks are not ranked well in offensive rating. If they make a couple of threes, their offensive rating is so different than what it was. And so your margins are just so thin, especially when you're dealing with open threes and a couple per game and a couple guys that can go cold. And if a couple guys go cold at the same time, all of a sudden the whole team suffers because of it. But your margins in the NBA are really slim. You look at that Wizards game the other night, and they missed 2 shots in the fourth quarter, and the game is lost. Right? That's just the way it is. You miss 2 shots right there, and that's it. The entire game comes down to just that. So I'd probably say that, but somebody would say, well, tell me about Luka, tell me about the players or something else. I think that the Kristaps Porzingis has found a little something in the NBA that I think will work for him. These little, like, if he can get close enough to the basket, the way that they're moving him off of the corners is just something that I've still noticed, that when they do that and he gets good post position, he can finish over guys. The Mavericks have found he's rejuvenated a little bit of something that I wasn't sure that he could get back because of just the place he was at the end of last year, the way that he was just so down on his luck at the end of the season. We've talked about this a million times. I'm going to do it again. He was standing in the corner in the playoffs because Carlisle just told him to go stand there, right? He was not playing well all last season. He wasn't right. He wasn't right physically and all that. And so he just wasn't able to take advantage of anybody that was smaller than him guarding him. Anybody. We saw Josh Hart. We saw so many players that were smaller than Porzingis and he not be able to take advantage or get position or anything like that. He's moving a lot better this year. He's getting position a lot better this year. He's scoring around the rim a lot better this year than he was last year. That's a different weapon that the Mavericks didn't have over the last couple of years. And so I think that would be the thing I would probably tell them about is that, okay, Porzingis is doing something a little different this year, and we hope that it continues throughout the season. He builds on it and that they can take that into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think I would build on that of saying I think Kid deserves some credit with that. I think that's something I've learned of how Kid has created these opportunities to get KP more confident in his game of, the post ups, the different thing, like as far as position on it. I think it's a both thing. I think it's both KP, and I think Kid deserves a little bit of credit to that too. And I think there's some I don't want to say negative things that I've learned, but just about Luka's like shape stuff, and just he's still not in shape right now. And I don't know what I'm learning about that, but it does affect his game in so many different areas and just the team as a whole. I mean, this isn't breaking news, but the Mavericks are not when Luka is off his game and not fully physically there. I'm not wording this right. They're just not, they just don't have, we've talked about this before. They don't have the roster construction to kind of allow Luka to, not be fully in shape.
It goes back to the margins thing I was talking about, right? The margins of error are so thin for the Mavericks. If Luka comes in a little he's not like incredibly out of shape, right? Like, let's be clear.
He's not 25, 8, and 8.
He's not looking like Zion right now out there wherever Zion is, or those pictures we saw of Zion on Media Day forever ago. Like, he just came in a little out of shape. He took his rest at the end of the offseason instead of the beginning because of the Olympics. We understand all that. We understand why. But he comes in just a little bit out of shape, and then all of a sudden, his first step isn't as quick. He can't get by guys as well. His 2-point percentage is in the tank right now. It is way worse than it was last year. And that changes what the Mavericks do because they can't get a couple of easy baskets around the rim. And then all of a sudden, just the rest of the margins change. Guys, so Luka can't get baskets at the rim as well as he did last year, which was an all-time rate last year. And then the guys aren't hitting open threes. And so that's all of a sudden your margins become so thin after that. So I think that all goes together, what you're saying and what I said at the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, my last question, and it's a pretty quick one. What team outside the Warriors do you for sure not want to see in the playoffs in a series?
Man, the way this Phoenix Suns team is playing, they're playing so well. They've been there before. They have this mentality of we've been there before. They have the defender in the paint that in DeAndre Ayton. They have Chris Paul and Devin Booker that can just hit those mid-range shots. They just can kind of coast throughout the game, just like they did against the Mavericks those 2 games. They can coast throughout the game and then just hit a couple of daggers. Like I mentioned against the Wizards, you miss 2 shots in the fourth quarter, you lose. The Suns can hit 4 or 5 shots in the fourth quarter, and boom, all of a sudden they're back in a game like we saw against the Mavericks. And then the secret, Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges defends Luka Doncic really, really well. He's one of the players in the NBA that we say, oh, dang, Luka really struggled against that guy. And so if Luka isn't back to, what we saw from Luka last season by the time the playoffs start, then Mikal Bridges may do a lot better than than we hope that he would do against him. But that's a team. I mean, they're just playing so well right now. You have to mention them. Everybody else, though, like that Lakers team can't defend to save their life right now.
Well, it's just funny that we would both say the Suns. I brought up that question because I don't think the Lakers is like the number one answer to that. And
no, not anymore. I had them. I was very confident that they'd be one of the best teams in the Western Conference, and they just came out and LeBron has missed a bunch of games, but they just have not looked good at all without LeBron. And even with LeBron, some of these games, they almost lost to the Pistons on Sunday night. I mean, it is rough for that team. Clippers are without Kawhi, and so you're not super worried about them. The Mavericks.
LeBron back down from beef stew again, or
the Mavericks signed him to a 10-day. Then the rest of the teams are like the Jazz. Nah, I think Luka can handle that. Portland,
still really good
Minnesota,
team.
Memphis,
really good. Yeah.
Denver is just down bad with all these injuries. This Michael Porter Jr. injury sucks really, really bad. So it's just it's sort of a lost season for them already.
PJ Dozier out for the season. Shout out to him versus
That one's-
Jiverson.
That one stunk.
Remember those days?
That injury stunk. Yeah, Jiverson still has a place in this league.
Does he? As an
I don't know.
assistant, player
All right.
development?
Let's finish up with our 5-star Apple Podcast review question. Again, put your 5-star review in Apple Podcast. Go there, put a question in, and we will answer all of them. This question is from G. May Weasley.
Oh.
When is Jason Kidd going to wake up and remember that going small with Dorian at the 5 actually worked?
Well, what does wake up mean? I mean, you're not going to start it. You're not
Open your
gonna-
third eye, Isaac. Wake up.
I know. I just don't know what wake up means in this scenario because I think it did work. I think he knows it worked. I just don't think you're gonna run this. It's kind of like the Wildcat in football. It's like you're gonna bring it out in certain scenarios and run it, but you're just not gonna run your whole team through that all of the time, especially when you have 13 centers on the roster. And then, you have Kristaps Porzingis who's making $30 million, 7'3", and he's, playing really good basketball right now. So you're not going to bench him. So I think he knows it worked. I think he woke up and saw that it worked. I think it's just a card in his back pocket. He's just going to play in certain scenarios.
It is a card in his back pocket. He's got to decide. He couldn't play it against that Wizards team. Gafford and Montrezl Harrell would have just killed him inside. I mean, it just wouldn't have worked. There's certain lineups he can play it against and that it would work. But again, just like Isaac said, he has to use it. It's a card to play. It's not a go-to lineup. It's not a starting lineup. It's not a every single game lineup. It's like Boban.
It's like Boban. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It's like Boban.
Boban is back.
Like you use Boban in certain lineups against certain teams, and you use small ball against certain teams, and we'll find out which ones those are. To answer his question though, do I think he should use it more? I do. I think he should run it out every once in a while, even against that Wizards team. Just throw it out there for 2 minutes if the Mavs are struggling.
And I think that lineup, or the newer version of that lineup, would be Maxey at the 5. I think you can run that lineup. Maxey's at the 5, and
that doesn't really. They're not going small at that point to me.
But what can Dorian do that Maxey can't?
Yeah, right. And Maxey's a better rim protector for sure at that point. So yeah, but at that point, if you put Luka and Maxey out there in a small lineup, then what this small lineup does is it wakes everybody up defensively, because then all of a sudden everybody's playing a little out of position. Everybody, you have to wake up a little bit more. You're going to switch everything because that's the reason why you go small. And so then everybody has to just stay engaged. When the Mavericks aren't engaged defensively, they should go small. Take the center out and just throw caution to the wind and just have everybody pay attention and wake up just a little bit more on the defensive end.
Yeah, especially, I mean, when Frank's back healthy, run a Luka, Frank, Reggie, Dorian, Maxey. I mean, is that their best defensive lineup? Luka, Frank, Reggie, Dorian, Maxey.
Well, if you're going to say best defensive lineup, I may take Luka out and put in Sterling or somebody else, but
yeah, but I mean, those are probably the 4 best defenders around.
Or someone screaming in their car. I would put Josh Green in instead if you want your best defensive lineup.
Look, make sure your windows are still rolled up if you're screaming that in your car.
No, roll the windows down. You'll need the oxygen you'll lose oxygen if you just keep screaming like that, because you're just screaming into the void at this point, if that's what you want. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. We'll be back tomorrow with a breakdown of the Cavs game. Hopefully it's a win for the Dallas Mavericks, not a win for the Cavs. Remember that time that you hosted a podcast and you said, hopefully it's a Clippers win?
I meant a win over the Clippers. Get out of here. I love how there's a subgroup of listeners to this pod that think that you're secretly a Clippers fan.
Which is incredible.
I know.
Which is incredible if they actually.
What y'all can't see is that the 2 bottom shelves of that bookshelf are like Clippers jerseys, like a Darius Miles jersey.
There's 10
jersey.
Reggie Jackson bobbleheads down there. Not really. Who's a Clippers fan? All right, there you go, guys. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Boom.